Hi, Jamie. You have to please excuse the state of me. I was listening to your podcast with Danny while I was doing some training this morning, and really interesting. And I suppose this is the easiest way to connect with you. So I work with athletes as well, and the area that I would specialize is gastro, but from a slightly different perspective. My original training is I'm a pharmacist. I also have trained in functional medicine and nutritional therapy, a little bit with herbal medicine. I do hands-on energy healing as well. So I come from sort of every side of the box, if that makes sense. I would see where you're talking about the athletes that are kind of bucking the trend with having more serious symptoms, that dysbiosis is a massive element of that. I would do a lot of gut microbiome testing. I would work a lot with IBS, Crohn's, all of the kind of realm of stomach problems that can then trigger into autoimmune problems. So, for example, I might have an athlete come in with ankylosing spondylitis, and the doctor wants to put them on Humira or a biological for the rest of their life. And when we actually get into the nuts and bolts of it, they picked up a GI infection traveling, and it triggered off an autoimmune problem. So we treat that, and they get a clear diagnosis. The AS goes into remission. So it's a really interesting area that can really respond well to herbal medicine. Often you need an antibiotic as well. You need to do a significant amount of gut healing if you want to get them back on track with, being able to eat a normal diet, which can be done. So restrictive diets like FODMAPs, well, if you treat the SIBO, for example, or the infection, you may be able to get them tolerating more foods again. It's a real specialist area. Microbiome testing is expensive, at least for what I have access to for my patients, but really interesting. And it's kind of ironic, but lately it's actually come up for me. So I've been the other side of it twice. In 2008, I had serious chronic fatigue, and it was a gut bug I picked up in Egypt. We treated it, and everything that was going wrong. I mean, they were checking me for leukemia and all sorts. So it's kind of ironic. I've been that side of it. But this year again, which I couldn't believe, because I was training for World Championships at Ironman 70.3, and I started to just run into a train crash of problems, which initially were just not tolerating my nutrition. I was having issues with my stomach was sloshing when I was running, racing. The carbohydrates weren't going down as well, but it just got gradually worse and worse, where I was having full-on allergic reactions to everything that I ate, with my throat and tongue swelling up. So pretty horrific stuff, but luckily I kind of had a sense about what it was, and I ran the right tests, because the doctors were no help at all. They just kept telling me I had anxiety. So Helicobacter is another one to consider, which is going to show up for athletes, and that's going to cause many of those upper GI symptoms that you were talking about: the heat, the pain, the burning, radiation, inability to hold liquids even in the stomach initially. That was my culprit. It caused an awful lot of problems. I'm 2 months down the line, and I'm still only starting to get back training, so miss my race and everything, but hey, perspective. Great learning while you're at it. So I've been using, after rounds of antibiotics, a lot of antibiotic herbs, a lot of gut healers. Glutamine would be one of those, but there are some wonderful herbs for help treating inflammation, hyperpermeable gut, allergies, etc. But another one that's going to show up for your athletes, especially the ones, like you mentioned, a really big rugby player who had nothing but gas, gluten intolerance, which may not show up on a celiac test. They may not have an elevated tissue transglutaminase IgA. They're not measuring the markers for gliadin sometimes, or we know that gluten is going to trigger increased zonulin in all people, whether or not they're showing symptoms. So it makes your research difficult, because how are you going to rule out the sensitivities that people have, the differences in their gut microbiome? But I would always ask the question, has the athlete done foreign travel? Have they had any incidents of gastritis or post-infectious IBS or stomach problems? And generally you can fix them once you identify them, and it's really important because add training into the stress mix on top of an infection, and you could look at further downstream neuroinflammatory problems, autoimmune problems, molecular mimicry. So I don't know, they're just my insights into it. I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed your podcast. You know your stuff. I learned a really good few nuggets in there, and I hope you don't mind me just sending this off to you. But when I hear someone who is doing amazing stuff, I kind of want to connect, and I'm nobody really in the realms of all of it, but you know, if you did want to connect, I'd be, you know, super excited. Keep up the good work. I'm going to be following you now so I can hear a little bit more about what you've been doing. Again, I'm really sorry about the sweaty mess. The irony is it was the easiest bike session ever, but I'm not quite there yet, so I gotta let my body heal. Cool. Laters.